Ladies and gentlemen, this is the grand finals of the Pitching Research Competition 2021, organized by the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities of General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University. The Pitching Research Competition is a hallmark venture collaborating both local and international research capabilities in one platform, aiming to enhance research skills of students and scholars, one alike. The concept of pitching research is a brainchild of Professor Robert Pfaff from Bond University, Australia. Shortly, you would witness 5 undergraduate teams who would battle it out for the Pitching Research Challenge Trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, this unfolds the Pitching Research Competition 2021.
Chief guest, Vice-Chancellor of KDU, Major General Milinda Pires, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Defence and Administration, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Academic, Professor K.A. Dhammika, Guest of Honour, Professor Veerakon Banda, Founder of the Pitching Research Concept, Professor Robert Pfaff, representatives of the International Panel of Evaluators, Dean, Research and Development, Dean, Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, and Deans of other faculties, professors, Directors, Center for IT Support and Development Services, Directors, Center for Quality Assurance, Senior Academia, and Academia of the Faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the grand finale of the Pitching Research Competition 2021. General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University, since time immemorial, has been rooted in its values and beliefs of our forefathers that birthed the organization, transforming it to the times ahead of us. Siya Ratatamai Kavadat, meaning for the motherland forever. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now pledge allegiance to our university. Those who have sacrificed their lives for our motherland shall not be forgotten. Their acts of kindness and patriotism will be cherished forever in our hearts. May we now pay homage to those who have sacrificed their lives for the sake of our motherland by observing 2 minutes of silence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Lighting a lamp before a ceremony brings divine grace. So it is with that hope that I have the honor of inviting Vice Chancellor Major General Milinda Pires, Deputy Vice Chancellor Defense and Administration Brigadier Vipula Chandra Siri, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Professor K.A.S. Dhammika, Guest of Honor Professor Veerakon Banda, founder of Pitching Research Concept, Professor Robert Pfaff, representatives of the International Panel of Evaluators, Dean of the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, Mr. Kitsiri Amaratunga, Professor Vasanta Pereira, Professor Atula Manavadugi, and representative of undergraduates to partake in this auspicious moment of virtually lighting the traditional oil lamp. With that, it is my privilege to invite Professor Vasanta Pereira to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. The Chief Guest and the Vice Chancellor of Sir John Kutalavala Defence University, Major General Milinda Pires, Deputy Vice Chancellors of the University, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri and Professor Sanat Dhammika, Guest of Honor, Professor Veerakon Banda, University of Sri Jayawardenepura, and inventor of the pitching research concept, Professor Robert Puff, the Bond University in Australia, member of the International Evaluation Panel, Director, Center for Quality Assurance, Senior Professor Rohini Senaviratna, Dean, Research and Development, Professor Charita Gunasekara, Dean of the Faculty, Mr. Kitsiri Amaratunga, Deans of other faculties, Heads of the department, professors, academic members of the university, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to deliver the welcome address at the grand finale of the pitching research competition conducted by the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities at the Sir John Kutalavala Defence University. I warmly welcome all of you on behalf of the faculty and the pitching research competition. I'm happy to mention here that this kind of research competition has taken place for the first time in Sri Lanka, and this great event will be a hallmark in the history of Sri Lankan university system. I'm sure that undergraduate of our faculty who were selected as the finalist of this competition should be proud about this. Pitching competition provides an opportunity for the students of the faculty to develop a pitch for their research ideas using the pitching framework developed by Professor Robert Puff, who is a world-class researcher and eminent professor at the University of Queensland in Australia. I'm happy to say that he's contributing today as the chair of the International Evaluation Panel and also the key resource person of this entire program. We use his research framework as a stepping stone for undergraduate research project of our country, our faculty, and this will make the quality research culture awareness, and also it create a solid research platform for undergraduate students at KDU, which has been paid less attention in the past. The outcome of this competition is in line with the research vision of the university that current Vice Chancellor, Major General Milinda Peiris, who always wants to create quality research culture at the university by uplifting the quality of research done by academic members and the students of the university. I personally request Dean and the academic staff of the faculty to continue this valuable academic event as a key event of your academic calendar. Though we have planned to take this as a physical or face-to-face session at the university premises, we were unable to do it due to the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country. Therefore, I apologize for any shortcomings occurred during this online session due to unavoidable reasons. I take this as an opportunity to wish the faculty students who are going to present their research ideas in front of an international evaluation panel today. Before winding up my speech, I especially thank Dean of the Faculty, Mr. Kitsiri Amaratunga, Ms. Dushanti Lokuge, Ms. Dinesha Pereira, Mr. Anju Ilangasekara, and Professor Atula Manavaduge for their great contribution to make this event a success. Hope this event will be an unforgettable event at KDU. Thank you. Have a good day. Dinesha, you can continue.
Thank you very much, sir. The concept of pitching research was founded by Professor Robert Pfaff from Bond University, Australia, and it has been an impressive intellectual journey thus far. This cordial invitation is extended to Professor Robert to address the unique gathering in this virtual space.
Okay, thank you. I think we've overcome technical difficulties there, and I believe you can now hear me. So thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this wonderful occasion. And in fact, congratulations to Professor Pereira and his team. This is a fantastic achievement, and the framework is a very simple design. It has 11 items. And what we will see very shortly with the finalists is that they will go through and pitch their research according to these elements. So the elements are the working title, research question, key papers, motivation. And that's really the framing, the basic framing, the big picture of their research. From then it goes to the individual project items. So we have idea, data, and tools, which are the basic building blocks. We have the two key questions, what's new and so what? And then we have the bottom line, contribution, and finally, the other considerations. Now, that is the simple way of looking at the framework, but we need to think a little bit more about what we are trying to achieve here. And what we are trying to achieve is communication. So the idea is that a young scholar, a researcher, in this case, undergraduate scholars, want to communicate to an expert in the field. And essentially, there are two ways that we're thinking of. There's two related ways of doing this communication. It is firstly in a written form. And so right through this competition, there have been submissions of written pitches. But the second form, which we'll see an example of today, is the oral form of pitching the research, which is obviously very closely tied to the written form. Now, in terms of assessing these pitches, what we have done with the international panel, the review panel, is to think about 5 overarching concepts that we're looking for in terms of this communication exercise. And very briefly, these 5 related concepts are the clarity in which the pitch is created, that the pitch is meaningful in some relevant sense. Thirdly, that it is clearly based on significant and genuine effort. The fourth one is that all items within the pitch are connected so that there is important connectivity. And then the fifth and final one, which in a way brings it all together, is that we're looking for a pitch, both written and oral, that starts a conversation. And the conversation that we have in our minds is a conversation with an expert in the field. And what that means is that in terms of the content of the pitches, they should have, as deemed necessary, technical content. Not technical content just for the sake of technical content, but nevertheless, they should be technically focused because they're targeting an expert in the field. And this will mean that in its purest form, at least in some instances where the topic is a little more obscure, it will be not so easy for a non-expert to consume them. I might say in today's event, we have a very fortunate situation, and possibly this is reflective of many of the teams, that the topics upon which the research are being built are very practically focused. And so I think this helps us very much to enjoy today's event. Very quickly, I want to share with you some background around the history of competitions of the pitching research concept. For the 5 years, 2015 to 2019, I conducted a version of this competition for PhD students at the University of Queensland. And in my humble opinion, it was a very successful series of competitions. 2020, COVID arrived, and so that was a break from the competition. Now I'm very happy that I am at Bond University, and I'm pleased to say that we will be initiating a university-wide competition here at Bond University this coming year. Some more history. I was very lucky and fortunate and pleased to link up with some researchers in Pakistan. And in 2017 and into the early part of 2018, we ran an all Pakistan competition. So it was right across Pakistan in all discipline areas. We had over 100 entrants, mainly from PhD students in Pakistan. So that was another fantastic event in this pitching research competition series. And here we are today in Sri Lanka at KDU. And as I've already said, I'm extremely excited and proud of the efforts here. And this is a first. Not before have we had a large scale attempt at doing a competition for undergraduate students. And what I've seen of the 5 finalists in terms of assessing these, I'm very excited, and I would just foreshadow that when we come back at the end to wrap this up and announce the winner, I will reinforce that all of the finalists have done a fabulous job. The quality for undergraduate research teams is just of the highest order. So congratulations to all. As I've said, I'd like to congratulate Professor Pereira and his team. I know that it's been a very involved and intensive process to do this and to roll it out across your faculty. It requires a lot of support and a lot of people to be involved, to do the assessment at that ground level. I know what it's like. I've done it at the University of Queensland. It can be very stressful. COVID can only add to that stress. So I'm much appreciative of the great efforts that you've done for the competition this year. And I'm really excited about the prospect that we can make this a regular event, not only at your university, but hopefully we can learn from this experience, that you can learn from this experience, and perhaps you will have the energy and the enthusiasm to expand the boundaries beyond KDU, but that is for another day. So I will leave it there. I will come back later once we've been through the finalists and watched and listened to their pitches, and then I'll have the exciting task of announcing the winner. So thank you very much and good luck today.
Thank you very much, Professor Robert, for those enthusiastic words. Next on the agenda is the address by the chief guest. It is my honor to invite with respect the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Major General Milinda Peiris, to address the participants in this virtual space. Over to you, sir.
Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defence and Administration, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor K.A.S. Dhammika, Guest of Honor, Professor Veerakon Banda, Founder of Pitching Research Competition, Professor Robert Pfaff from the Bond University, Australia, the International Panel of Judges, Dean, Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, Mr. Kitsiri Amartunga, Professor Vasanta Perra, Professor Atula Manamaduge, Head of Departments, Special Invitees, undergraduates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University is in the process of nurturing a high-end research culture. Therefore, it is always encourages bringing in novel concepts into the academic arena by collaborating with international affiliations of this nature. The pitching research competition is one of the fine examples for an enormous effort in providing a grand opportunity for the KDU student community to strengthen up their research skills with confidence. I hope this new venture will carry forward and help KDU undergraduates to place their research papers in research conferences and subsequently assist them to submit them to high impact journals. And also I would like to remind you that the KDU International Research Conference is held in September this year. And I would like you to submit a couple of good papers there too. I would like to greatly appreciate Professor Robert Pfaff, who associated heavily from the initial introductory session to the final evaluation of the pitching research competition. I'm very grateful to you, Professor Robert, for your total contribution in this effort. And I was so glad to hear that KDU is the first in Sri Lanka to offer this pitching research competition at this scale. And I'm sure, as you mentioned, that we have the capacity and we have the advantage to extend this beyond KDU. So hopefully next year, we are looking forward your total assistance and cooperation to go beyond KDU and have a competition among undergraduates of other universities, and even thereafter, even for postgraduate students, we can extend the same. Professor Robert dedicated his valuable time to conduct a couple of webinars to train the KDU students and staff about the vitality of the idea of pitching research in a more clear and a concise manner. I think this practice not only supports undergraduates, but also helps everyone who engages in the journey of research. It is a pleasure and a privilege to welcome the international panel of judges who present a fair blend of countries and universities to evaluate the pitching research competition grand finale in 2020-21. I warmly welcome Professor Kathy Walsh from University of Technology, Sydney. Then Professor Charlie Kai from University of Liverpool, UK. Professor Henk Bachman from University of Auckland, New Zealand. And Professor Tom Smith from Macquarie University, Australia for today's event. And also I would appreciate the great efforts and initiation taken by Professor Vasanta Pereira and Dean and the team, Professor Atula Manuaduge and all of them. Your effort is great, and this is beneficial to all the students of KDU, and we would like you to carry on with these great efforts in the future too. And I really appreciate your great contribution towards this event. And also I must congratulate all the students, those who have done extremely well, as Professor Robert mentioned. And I'm so proud. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. With that, may I cordially invite the guest of honor, Professor Veerakon Banda from the University of Sri Java, Dinapura, to address this unique gathering.
Okay, thank you very much, Dinesha. Vice Chancellor, General Sergeant Kotala Defense University, Major General Milinda Piris, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor K. Dhammika, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defense, Brigadier W. Chandraseri, founder of Pitching Research Competition, Professor Robert Huff from Bond University, Australia, the internal panel of judges, Dean of the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, Mr. Sri Amaratunga, Professor Vasanta Pereira, Professor Atul Manwaduge, heads of departments, special invitees, undergraduates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. Within my capacity as the guest of honor in the today's event and as one of the former deans of the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, I know the gravity of developing research culture among undergraduates. In this endeavor, the visionary leadership of the Vice Chancellor led KDU energizing with both the physical infrastructure development as well as intellectual capital development, though encouraging events in this nature. We know KDU is a unique place where we can see there is composition of military and civil staff with one mission. One of the special things that I have noted is whenever there is a need to change, always disseminate new knowledge through collaborating with academics and industry professionals. I have noted the relevance of enhancing the depth of research work of three diversified areas, namely the degrees offered by KDU, BSc in Social Sciences, BSc in Management and Technical Sciences, and BSc Logistic Management. Then it is utmost important not only the involvement in research, but also continuity of the research. I see here the opportunity is available for conducting multidisciplinary studies. Initiating and facilitating events relating to this nature would become great learning points for both academics and staff. Therefore, I appreciate Mr. Sri Amaratunga, Dean of the Faculty, for his effort taken. So this is the first time pitching research competition introduced into Sri Lankan University system. I have noted the courtesy of Professor Robert Huff, who has taken a lot of effort introducing pitching research concept and needs to be acknowledged. Professor Vasanta Pereira, Professor Atul Manwaduge, who lays with Robert Huff, is a commendable work. With that, I wish all the best for the today's contestants and wish this event to continue for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly be unfolding the grand finals of the Pitching Research Competition 2021. It is my privilege to introduce the eminent panel of evaluators. We have with us Professor Robert Pfaff. Professor Robert Pfaff, who functions as the chair of the panel today, holds a PhD from Monash, specializing in finance and economics, and an emeritus professor and formerly director of research at the University of Queensland Business School, Australia. He is the most prolific finance author worldwide and finance researcher in the Asia-Pacific region from 1990 to 2004. He presently holds the appointment of professor at Bond University in Australia. Next, serving as an evaluator is Professor Kathy Walsh from the University of Technology, Sydney. Professor Walsh holds a PhD in finance from University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia, and presently holds the appointment of professor at University of Technology, Sydney. Professor Walsh has earned large research grants, among others, such as Offshore RMB Hubs, New South Wales University, Government in 2014. Our next eminent panelist is Professor Charlie Kai. from the University of Liverpool, UK. Professor Charlie is a professor of finance at Liverpool Management University, United Kingdom. Professor Charlie's research career started from his PhD on the market microstructure of the London Stock Exchange. Professor Charlie's present research interests are financial technology, fintech, in the global perspectives and emerging markets. Professor Henk Berkman from the University of Auckland, New Zealand is our next panelist. Professor Berkman is a professor in accounting and finance. His areas of expertise are market microstructure, asset pricing, and corporate governance. Currently, Professor Berkman functions as the head of finance business school of the University of Auckland. Last but not least, we have Professor Tom Smith from Macquarie University. Professor Smith is head of Department of Applied Finance. He is one of the leading finance academics in Australia and has been ranked as the #1 finance academic in Australia and New Zealand by both Journal of Financial Literature and the Pacific Basin Financial Journal. He won the Emerald Literati Award in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, this would be the eminent panel for the grand finals of the Pitching Research Competition 2021. Now, this announcement is for the competing teams. The rules for the competition are that each team will be given 10 minutes for their presentation, and the presenters must keep their cameras on while presenting. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this unfolds the grand finals of the Pitching Research Competition 2021. Starting off, the first team, Pitching 1, under the title Applicability of Subscription Business Model in Sri Lanka.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Imesh. Our research topic is the applicability of subscription business model in Sri Lanka. So before dive into our main topic, I hope we all should get a quick idea about what this subscription model is. So basically, a subscription model is an e-commerce model that delivers a personalized package of goods to the consumer's home on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis for a recurring fee. According to the Forbes magazine, subscription business model is one of the top 5 e-business trends which accelerated its sales and awareness during this COVID-19 pandemic. So in our next slide, if we consider some facts and statistics relating to these e-businesses and subscription business model, according to the Adobe reports, the total online spending may hit 82.5 billion US dollars with increment of 77 comparing to the previous year in 2021 globally. Over the past 7 years, the worldwide subscription revenues have increased by more than 300%, reflecting a compound annual growth rate of 18%. If we consider the Sri Lankan context, the Sri Lankan online retailing penetration is still less than 1%. But according to Asia Securities estimation, Sri Lankan online retail market to be 450 to 500 million US dollars over next 5 to 6 years. So again, if we consider our neighbor country, according to the Peak surveys, the average Indian spends 295 Indian rupees per month on a subscription service, and approximately 62% of Indians have subscribed to 3 or more such platforms. So it's an emerging e-business model in India as well. So let's dive into our research problem in our next slide. So the basic problem is to determine whether this subscription business model is applicable and appropriate for the current Sri Lankan business context. So this research topic comes under the discipline of entrepreneurship and the supply chain management. The paradigm of this research is to bringing the trending business model into Sri Lanka and find out the feasibility of applying and investigate the e-business landscape in Sri Lanka. So we focus on kind of mix of both descriptive and predictive approach in this research. In our next slide, first of all, I should say that the research regarding this model are very limited, and but we were able to find out good couple of researchers, and we narrowed down into 3 key papers. The first key paper was the modeling consumers' intention to use fashion and beauty subscription-based online service. From this research, we could gain some valuable information regarding the consumer buying behavior and how it deviated from the traditional shopping to e-businesses and then for the subscription services. The second research, it reveals that the taxonomy of the subscription model in retailing and the different versions of subscription, and there are three types of subscription services, and the different industries and economies, those who have implemented this subscription model. And the last research that it shows how the data are used to develop the products in line with the subscription model, and how the recurring payment schemes boost the company revenues and cash flows and the forecast of the company sales and market. So in our next slide, the motivation. So our motivation, we can basically list it down into 2 main pillars. The first one is the academic motivation, and the second is the social and the business motivation. So since this is an academic research, our base motivation is to extend the existing perspective on e-business model and subscription service in Sri Lanka, and value addition to the existing knowledge upon e-business theories. At the same time, during this outbreak of COVID-19, Sri Lanka was shut down and subjected to curfews. So as a result, people had to restrict their regular travel while familiarizing themselves with the online purchase in order to their online purchasing. So on top of that, the people were reluctant to expose to the society as well. So the society need created to find out an alternative to this issue. This subscription business model would be a good solution for both COVID-19 pandemic as well as the people's busy and the hectic lifestyle, making things easier for people to have their subscribed items to delivered to their doorstep every month. And according to McKinsey's survey, over 1,000 people, 1 in 5 or rather 20% started using subscription model even in the early stage of the pandemic. So we thought this would be a good solution for our Sri Lankan context as well. So in the next slide, the idea. So all in a nutshell, despite the fact that several research on this subscription model have been conducted all over the world, no research has been conducted in this subscription model in Sri Lanka. Therefore, the bottom line of this research is to find out the feasibility of implementing a new emerging e-business model into the Sri Lankan context, and at the same time to expand the knowledge pertaining to the businesses and the new knowledge and build new knowledge about the subscription service. So I hope you all got a clear idea about the topic and what we're going to do. So the Ninuri will continue the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Imesh. In the phase of data, we're going to strike the balance between the data demand and the data supply guided us in the pitching research template. Since there have a limited number of researchers and lack of literature on the subscription business model, we decided to conduct our research by doing a qualitative method. And since this business model is new to our country, we have to collect information by considering different perspectives to check whether this model will be suitable or not. And we need to gather data pertaining consumer buying behavior and sales patterns and other related data, which refers to our data demand as well as our ground study. And there are enough number of firms which are adequate and willing to share their data with us and support us to carry out our research and explore more. So with that, the data supply issue is sorted out. To sum up all, it is possible to collect data and there are not ethical and other constraints in producing the sample data. Moving on to the next slide. In our next slide, we are going to explain about the tools we require, the availability and approaches to those tools. So in our scenario, we are using the qualitative method and we don't have much complex softwares to be used. So our main tool of gathering data is by conducting interviews and a case study research design and a phenomenology research design. So we are already in the process of making interview scripts. Due to this prevailing situation, the interview is going to be probably held via Zoom, and we are going to analyze the gathered data as content analysis, narrative analysis, as well as the guided theories. So moving on to the next slide, when we talk about what's new from our research, going to be pointed out in two criteria as academic and social. Despite the facts that the few studies on subscription business model have been conducted around the world, and there are no studies on this subscription business model have been conducted in Sri Lanka. Therefore, this is the first ever research going to be conducted in Sri Lanka in the subscription business model topic. So with this, there would be new knowledge creation as well as expand existing data, information, theories regarding e-business model as well as subscription model. On the other side, the research would open windows to the companies to reach customers in new ways, because since this is a new shopping experience with the customers, this would be very convenient for their hectic lifestyles. And due to this COVID-19 pandemic situation, in order to get things delivered to the doorstep without being exposed to society. So in the next slide, if the research reveals that the subscription business model is applicable, it would be beneficial for the existing companies to do this model along with the traditional method as an emergency option. And also, this would be highly beneficial, and it would be an inspiration for the budding entrepreneurs to form their businesses according.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a short failure on the part of the presentation. Please do bear with us. We would be playing a pre-recorded version of the same pitching research team 1, and we would be taking from the point that this present student was making the presentation.
Good day, everyone. With this presentation, we're going to briefly explain about our research topic, the basic problem, key papers, what is our motivation, idea, data, and some other couple of areas which are relating to our topic. So before diving into the main topic, I hope you all should get a quick introduction, quick idea about this subscription model. So a subscription model is an e-commerce model that delivers a personalized package of goods to the consumer's home on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis for a recurring fee. So this model is very simple. The customer is billed on recurring basis and receives the products at their doorstep at the same time every month. One advantage of this model is that sometimes you can't get your all products from one place if the product is finished or unavailable at a particular boutique. So if you do traditional shopping, you have to go to multiple boutiques to get your stuff. So it's a waste of time as well as not a practical and acceptable at a current situation like COVID-19 pandemic. So at this business, this business as a business point of view, this business model be a good way of approaching customers in a modern way, and it makes the life easier for the consumers in their in their busy schedules. So according to the Forbes magazine, the subscription business model is one of the top 5 e-business trends, which is accelerated its sales and awareness in this COVID-19 pandemic. According to McKinsey survey, over 1,000 people, 1 in 5 purchase, or rather 20%, started using subscription model even in the early stage of this pandemic. So if we hop into some facts and stats relating to the e-business and subscription model in the next slide, As per the Adobe reports, total online spending may hit $82.5 billion with the increment of 77% comparing to the previous year in global context. Over the past 7 years, globally, subscription sales grow by more than 300% and at a compound annual rate of 18%. So according to a McKinsey survey of 500 of senior business leaders in different industries, 70% of them have stated that the subscription model will be a key business model to their prospectors in the year ahead. And also only 24% of them currently implementing it. So if some facts and the stats which are relating to the Sri Lankan e-business context and the India, the Sri Lankan online retailing penetration is still less than 1%, yet according to the Asia Securities, Sri Lanka online retail market to be 450 to 500 million dollars over next 5 to 6 years. So the purchases in FMCG category has doubled in March 2020 and expected to grow from 20 to 70% in online retail sector in Sri Lanka. So if we consider our neighbor country, as per the Pick Street report, Indian average spends 295 rupees per month for their subscriptions, and also 62% of the Indians have subscribed to three or more subs platforms, and it's an emerging market in emerging business model in Indian context. So in next slide, our basic problem. So the basic problem is to determine whether the subscription model is applicable and acceptable for the current Sri Lankan business context. So in a situation like this COVID-19 pandemic, we are finding out whether this model is applicable and approachable in the Sri Lankan business environment. To find out and to get the literature for our research, we went through a couple of research papers. And first of all, I should say that the researches regarding this model is very limited. Yet we were able to find out good couple of researchers, and we narrowed down into 3 research papers. So as per the slide, the first research that reveals the taxonomy of subscription model in retailing and different variations of the subscription service in the industries implementing. So with this research, we could get more information regarding the subscription services and the economies, those who implemented the subscription service into their business arenas. So in the second research, we could find out the consumer intention using of subscription business model comparing to traditional shopping. So the shiftment of the consumer behavior we could find out with this research. In the third, that was conducted on the point of the business, which how the data are used to develop the products and how the recurring payment schemes boost the company revenue, cash flows, and the forecast of the company analysis. So with that research, we could find out more information at the point of the business business point of view. So in our next slide, the motivation. So during this COVID-19 outbreak, Sri Lanka was shut down and subjected to curfews, and as a result, people had to restrict their regular travels while familiarizing themselves with online purchases in order to place their daily orders. So people were reluctant for the traditional shopping, so people want to find an alternative for this issue. So we will conduct this research in a challenging setting where this model has yet to be implemented, and where there are investigating the possibilities and challenges of implementing this model across the country in the future. So this would be a significant turning point in the future, as many of the people have already become acquainted and dealt with the technology during the COVID-19 pandemic. This subscription business model would be a solution for the both COVID-19 people's hectic COVID-19 and the people's hectic lifestyles, making things easier for people to have their subscribed items delivered to their doorstep quickly. So in the next slide, the idea. So all in a nutshell, despite the fact that the several researches on this model has been conducted all over the world, now researchers have been conducted on the subscription model in Sri Lanka. So this is going to be the first ever research going to happen in Sri Lankan arena according to regarding this subscription business model. So our aim is to study and determine whether this model will be a successful e-business venture, e-business model in Sri Lankan business environment. So I hope you all got a clear idea about the topic and what we are going to do. And so Ninuri will continue the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Imesh. According to our research, we used qualitative method. It is because as far as the research we have done, we identify some potential businesses, those who would like to implement this model to their businesses. And in order to gather the information, we are expecting to do some interviews with them also. And when we talk about the reasons why we use this qualitative method, the first one is the lack of research paper articles and the literature for our topic, subscription business model. And when we talk about the other factor, since this business model is new to our country, we have collected information by considering different perspectives to check whether this model will be successful or not. In the next slide, and our next slide is tools. In this slide, it will explain about how we analyze the collected data. According to slide, we have decided to collect data from few subscription businesses among currently existing less than 10 business models. And it is done through a case study research design and phenomenology research design. Thus, probably there will be formal interviews with 4 to 5 major characters that have direct experiences in the subscription business industry. Moving on to the next slide. So, in this research will open to companies to reach customers in different ways. Since this is a new experience to everyone in our country, so it will be very convenient for their hectic lifestyles. And with this undergoing research, the online e-business concepts and theories going to be broad and expand, including Sri Lanka, into the e-business global context. Next slide. As you can see in the slide, our research discusses about the applicability of the subscription business model. So it will be very highly beneficial for the companies to go along with the traditional method, because this will be an inspiration for all the budding entrepreneurs to form their business as per this model. And if the research reveals that this will not suitable, so we can easily find out the causes for the failure. So it will help for the future researchers to overcome this obstacle. Moving on to the next slide. And lastly, when we talk about the contribution, this is the type of a research which will result in creating new opportunities for the 3PL companies, which means third-party logistic companies. Although this method will go with the supply chain, this would create new job opportunities and new setups within the subscription industry in Sri Lanka. So far, Sri Lanka has been neglected with considering the e-business platforms. And with this research, we are opening windows to the world, exposing the present business trends. With this research, we're going to add new knowledge and broaden the current concepts relating to the e-business theories. And so with this all, we pitched our research presentation as per the pitching research template. And I hope you got a clear idea about our topic, and we are looking forward to conduct our academic research with contributing to expand the current theories ongoing with e-business models. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the second team, Pitching 2, who would portray to us a study of undergraduates' perception on the transition of learning from on-campus to online.
According to paper in 2020, online learning increases student satisfaction levels due to factors such as its convenience and flexibility. If so, why are undergraduates counting days for university to recommence physically? If online education is successful, as Tax says, why don't universities continue online teaching instead of trying to bring the students on campus just as an opportunity shows up? To put it in simple, it is the reluctance of one to adapt to change. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to pitch our research on the title, a study of undergraduates' perception on the transition of learning from on-campus to online, with special reference to General Sir John Kodalawala Defence University. Our team members are Rochelle Pereira, Hansi Pereira, Inura Kodedigama, and Achinta Tharaka. According to Dias and Eliatambi in 2020, Sri Lankan higher education system is denoted by the traditional education system. This was proven with the difficulties many universities faced during the adaptation of online learning platforms during the recent pandemic. However, according to Smart and Keppel, undergraduates' perception on this transition is quite controversial, as there are both positive and negative responses. While some, such as Weber, argue that e-learning is beneficial as it gives a frameless technological gateway to the world of knowledge, Becker and others in 2013 opposed this. When it comes to Sri Lankan content, with reference to Jayatilaka and Gunawardhana's work in 2016, it can be seen that this major debate on the perceptions has not been analyzed sufficiently before switching the education platforms from traditional to online, which has ultimately created a dilemma around the online education. This gives rise to our basic research question. What are the factors affecting the undergraduate's perception on online learning and how it can be used to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of online education? Learning is a process which shapes human behavior. The constructivism theory states that learners construct knowledge rather than just passively receive information. Evolutionary theory signifies that a learner should learn to adapt to his environmental changes in order to ensure his survival. And the sociocultural theory explains that a learner's learning experience will be influenced by the social and cultural aspects in his environment. Therefore, this indicates that learning is a multidimensional facet. With the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic and with the sudden shift of learning from on-campus to online, two learning platforms came to light. Thereby, we've selected our key research papers from 3 reputable Scopus indexed journals, which focus on different variables that influence this transition. The first paper has found out that students frequently express frustrations attributable to their lack of skills in self-regulating their learning, including even basic time management issues. And based on this, we've identified individual constraints as a valid variable. The second paper says that instructor quality, prompt feedback, and effective course design significantly impact students' online learning process. And based on this, we've identified course-related constraints as a valid variable. The third paper says that due to unreliable internet access and technology, students have been struggling to participate in digital learning. And based on this, we've identified technological constraints as a valid variable. And therefore, based on these variables, we've developed our entire platform. Moving on to the 3 core aspects of our research. Idea. Weber shows that in developed nations, online education continues to expand faster than traditional learning, and the number of student enrollments keep increasing as per Cole et alia in 2014. However, according to Gajaraj and Hicks, developing countries like Sri Lanka face a lot of drawbacks in e-learning, and Eastman shows that dropout rates are much higher. According to Pokhrel and Chetri in 2021, during COVID-19 pandemic, on-campus learning faced much constraints and therefore had to shift to the virtual platform. Although many researches have been conducted, Jayatilaka and Gunawardhana state that only a very few pay attention to this shift in the local context. Moreover, although Sri Lanka has a highly standardized educational system among other South Asian countries as proven by Lienage in 2014, undergraduates' performance is dropping pertaining to factors such as their reluctance to adapt to changes. Over to you, Inura.
Thank you, Rochelle. Data. According to Stanford and others in 2017 and Herbert in 2018, course delivery constraints have a relationship with perception. Bali and Liu's work in 2018 and Jayatilaka and Gunawardhana's work show that the societal, and constraint and perception influence each other. Anderson and Groenland in 2009 shows that the individual constraint have a correlationship with perception. Murtha Prasad and others in 2021 denote an impact of technological constraint on perception. Based on research objectives, research questions, and the review of literature, the conceptual framework has been developed. Accordingly, the independent variables are constraint related to course delivery, societal and cultural, individual and technological constraint, while the dependent variable is the undergraduate's perception. An empirical model has been formulated where y is a vector of perception, x1, x2, x3, and x4 are vectors of constraint 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. In order to make the data analytical part, the relational hypotheses are developed based on the conceptual framework. Tools. The study is under mixed method of both quantitative and qualitative aspects as developed by Frankel and Wallen in 2009. Mixed qualitative research uses judgmental sampling as non-probability sampling and quantitative research uses simple random sampling as probability sampling and boogie. Quantitative data is expected to collect by using a structured questionnaire and qualitative data using in-depth interviews and focus group discussion. In the data analytical part, the quantitative analysis study is to conduct a linear regression model as the empirical model, and IBM SPSS Statistics version 26 is to be used as the statistical software. Analysis comprise of uni, bi, and multivariate analysis. The estimating reliability, validity, sample adequacy, the goodness of fitness, model fit, and parameter are going to be tested. For the qualitative study, thematic analysis approach is going to be used. Moving on to the two key questions of our research. What's new? An analysis of cultural, individual, and course-related constraint with reference to the world-renowned theories, Darwin's evolutionary theory, Piaget's constructivism, and Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory will be done. When considering the perception of undergraduates, Lee in 2017 shows that the proposition and opposition is based on the personal thoughts rather than the actual level of ideas, where the evidences show a reluctance to undergo this transition even though the students' achievement is high in online platforms, as said by Satcher and Newman in 2010. So far, this individual constraint has not been evaluated effectively to understand the undergraduate's perception. So what? According to Buri and Oka in 2017, understanding and clearly analyzing the undergraduate's perception is a vital need of today to provide quality education. This study aims to provide a critical analysis on how the undergraduate perception has been evaluated with reference to the above-mentioned constraint and how these constraints can be considered to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of online learning with the help of latest statistical data. Understanding these constraints with regard to these theories will lead this to an exceptional research. Moving on to the one bottom line of our research. The contribution of this research can be taken in three aspects. Theoretical contribution will develop a logic that reconciles predictions from competing theories and help the academia by extending a theory to explain a phenomenon where it has not previously been applied. Methodological contribution will help future researchers to study the research methods and the techniques which we have used throughout our research. Empirical contribution will fill the existing empirical gap and disseminate knowledge as literature. It will help future researchers and educational experts to identify undergraduates' perception and improve online education system far better than today. Other considerations: due to unexpected COVID-19 situation, data is expected to be conducted by an online questionnaire. And this brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now we move to the third team of the competition, Pitching 3, who would be presenting to us on glass ceiling and women career advancement, evidence from Sri Lankan logistics sector.
Good morning, madam. Good morning, sir. Good morning, my dear colleagues. We are here to give a brief introduction about our pitching research template. My fellow team members are Kasuni Gunawardana, Nadish Ilukumbura, Troop Under Officer W. Ayashmant, and myself is Pamadi Marasingha. As you can see, the content of our research is working title, basic research questions, key papers, motivation, idea, data, tools, what's new, so what, contribution, and lastly, other considerations. Starting from the working title, the title we have chosen is Glass Ceiling and Women's Career Advancement, Evidence from Sri Lankan Logistics Sector. Talking about our research title, women are entering the workforce in greater numbers than ever before, but top managerial positions remain scarce. This is one of the greatest obstacles that a woman have to face throughout her entire work life. What is this glass ceiling? It refers to an invisible barrier that prevents women and minorities from reaching the top of the corporate hierarchy. With the introduction to our working title, our basic research questions are: what are the factors leading to glass ceiling, which impedes women's career advancement, and how does the glass ceiling impact on women's career advancement in the field of logistics? Moving on, you can see that we have chosen 3 key papers for our research from both Sri Lankan and international contexts. The first study we are going to highlight is the study published by Glass and Cook in the Leadership Quarterly, which is an A-star ranked journal based on ABDC ranking. The findings reveals that women leaders often experience shorter tenures compared to their male counterparts. And secondly, the publication in the International Journal of Manpower, which is a rank A journal, reveals that wage gap is linked to gender differences in hierarchical positions within the organization. And thirdly, the Sri Lankan study has been conducted by Bombola and D. Alvis, published in Journal of Competitiveness, reveals that glass ceiling and women career development tend to have a negative relationship in the Sri Lankan private sector. Moving on to the motivation, we have identified that there is a gender biasness in career advancement in the logistics sector of Sri Lanka. Since women are underrepresented, they are more likely to hit a glass ceiling. And despite the fact that women work as hard as men or even harder and smarter, they often face greater obstacles when advancing in. To further justify using the statistics, we have obtained the stats from Central Bank Annual Report and reliable newspaper articles. It states that, nevertheless, women representation is 52%, only 33%, 55% women participate in the labor force. However, women in logistics and transport represent only less than 3%. And moving on to the 3 core aspects of Idiot's Guide, the first one is the idea. And talking about the idea of our research, women remain concentrated at the bottom of the career ladder, such that female managers remain a small fraction of those in senior positions. The study helps women in logistics sector to recognize obstacles related to glass ceiling in their career progression and aspire to reach the top by identifying glass ceiling factors. Also in this study, the researchers aim to explore how self-efficacy, family support, organizational factors and cultural factors would affect women's career advancement. Furthermore, researchers thus seek to identify and reveal how organizations may empower women and support them to overcome barriers towards career advancement. Over to you, Nadish.
Thank you, Pamavi. Moving on to the next two factors from the idiot's guide, data and tools. Since this study is a qualitative study, respondents will be identified through snowball sampling technique, which means that potential respondents will be recommended by the previous respondents of the study. And we hope to gather information from women in logistics and transport as well. Qualitative data will be gathered from in-depth interviews using semi-structured interview guides. And thereafter, qualitative interpretations will be constructed by analyzing the gathered data using thematic analysis technique in order to find a meaningful pattern relating to a conclusion of our study. Moving on to the next two key questions of our study. What's new? Have you ever heard of the statement, married men with kids and a stay-at-home wife have the greatest career achievement? So this is a common belief within our society. And at the same time, role incongruity theory states that there is an incongruity between the social role and the job role. Therefore, in this study, we hope to emphasize the application of role incongruity theory by taking family role into consideration. Furthermore, we have identified that there are only a limited number of studies relating to the impact of glass ceiling on women career advancement in the field of logistics, and especially in Sri Lanka. So what? The impact of glass ceiling is not very much of a familiar topic, and therefore we hope to focus on building awareness in this regard by conducting this research. Informal organizational cultures, traditions and norms may work against women's capabilities in advancing in their careers. Therefore, we believe that it is very important to build awareness among the devoted and dedicated female employees within the logistics sector of Sri Lanka. Furthermore, we hope to encourage women in advancing in their careers by building the fundamental positive mindset of the female employees within the sector. So all of these aspects brings us to one bottom line, which is the contribution. Here, we hope to highlight the theoretical contribution as well as the practical contribution of our study. As the theoretical contribution, this study attempts to look at the family factors in the theoretical lens of role incongruity, thereby contributing to the literature. As the practical contributions, findings from this study have the potential to evaluate the relationship between the glass ceiling and women career advancement of executive level female employees. Furthermore, whether the glass ceiling is actual or a myth or maybe even a self-created barrier could be determined by conducting this research. Finally, this study assists in recommending solutions for overcoming these invisible barriers faced by the female employees within the logistics sector of Sri Lanka. So moving on to the final part of our presentation, other considerations. Firstly, as an ethical barrier, we have identified the possibility of rejection or reluctance of potential respondents to face interviews or to provide information relating to our study. And therefore, we hope to ensure that the gathered data will be treated anonymously and confidentially. Privacy of the respondents will be highly considered and valued. Secondly, the study will be mainly limited to the women executives in the logistics sector of Sri Lanka, and therefore future studies may be carried out to investigate in this regard in other industries as well, without limiting it to the logistics sector, while considering all women employees generally. Finally, since the current study is a qualitative study, future research may be carried out embedding quantitative techniques along with the qualitative techniques, as well as in-depth analysis of the glass cliff theory as well. So this brings us to the end of our presentation, and We hope to find a valuable conclusion to our study, which will enable the female employees within the logistics sector to identify the reality of these invisible barriers and to climb up their career ladders to higher positions within the sector. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the fourth team, Pitching 4, who would be delving into the topic of development of a travel time-enabled connectivity index for post office networks in Colombo 10 Municipal Council.
Good morning, dear sir. We are from Logistics Management, Department of Management and Finance from General Sir John Kakalawala Defence University. I'm Mobinya Sirivardhana and I'll be presenting on behalf of my team members who are Arjuna Vishwanath, Javid Chamod and Dilshani Atmina. Our research is development of a travel time enabled index for post office networks in Colombo 10 Municipal Council. Our research question is, how do travel time enabled indicators show the connectivity among post offices in this network? In that, we found out connectivity relies on accessibility and mobility. Because of that, we need to calculate accessibility and mobility indexes in order to predict the exact connectivity of a region. Now we'll move on towards the key research papers which we used to refer while doing this research. Our major key paper was East Java Maritime Connectivity and its regional development support. This shows existing connectivity, accessibility, and mobility indexes which helped us to develop new connectivity indexes to our research. The next research was accessibility to freight transport networks in Belgium. This is a geographical approach which shows the topological accessibility and transport networks in whole Belgium. This shows how much accessibility influence to the efficiency and effectiveness of a transport network. Third research was done in China and it is transport connectivity and regional development. This shows how a great transport network leads to economic sustainability by reducing travel time and increasing efficiency. This will help our research to find out the best paths and routes in our post office network. Now we'll move on towards the motivation, which is the heart of our research. The most influential factor is using travel time compared to distance, which is used in the previous researches. Also, we can find out the exact connectivity by calculating the accessibility and mobility indexes. And by considering the travel time connectivity index, post offices can decide their deliveries in a cost-effective manner. Also, through these new indexes, post offices can identify the best cost-effective network in their region. In existing literature, distance is used to develop connectivity index, but travel time is considered ideal rather than distance. Idea. Now I'll be discussing about the existing connectivity index that has been developed in the previous researches. CIK represents the connectivity of node K, and A depends on the existence of a link, which is if there is a link between two nodes, it is represented as 1, and if there is no any link, it is represented as 0. And QKN is the movement of goods from node K to node N, which is measured from tons. And N is the number of nodes. Now I'll be showing the new index we developed in our research. As you can see, all these factors are almost similar to our new index. But the thing we changed in our index is using time taken to travel between two nodes instead of distance between two nodes, which is used in the existing index. Therefore, we have used TKN in our new connectivity index instead of DKN. Calculating accessibility index. In the existing index, they have used length of the roads of different cities in the numerator and the area, which is measured in square kilometers, in the denominator. In order to develop the accessibility index in our research, we considered the 7 post offices in the post office networks in Colombo 10 Municipal Council. Therefore, we developed our new index by dividing the travel time along the diameter by the number of nodes. Diameter is the distance between the farthest nodes in the network. Therefore, we can understand that when the diameter increases, the connectivity decreases. Calculating mobility index. In the existing index, they have used length of the roads in different cities as the weight factor and the population in the denominator. In our new index, we have used time taken to travel between nodes in the numerator and the amount of quantity transported in the denominator, which is measured from tons. Now I'll explain how we calculated this time taken to travel. If we consider a network which consists of 4 post offices, T1 is the time taken to travel from node 1 to node 2, and T2 is the time taken to travel from node 2 to node 3, and T3 is the time taken to travel from node 3 to node 4, and finally T4 is the time taken to travel from node 4 to node 1. Finally, the time taken to travel is calculated by taking the summation of all T1, T2, T3, and so on. Data and tools. In order to collect data about amount of quantity transported, processing time in post offices, and time taken to travel, we need the help of post offices. Therefore, we can collect this data by the records provided by post offices. Next, Google Maps will help us to find the best roads between two nodes and the time taken to travel in those roads. And we can find out the distance of the diameter of that network. Finally, Microsoft Excel is used to calculate the connectivity, accessibility, and mobility indexes. So what? We have used time taken to travel instead of distance between two nodes to calculate the connectivity index. When it comes to accessibility index, we have used the travel time along the diameter instead of length of the roads. When calculating the mobility index, we use the amount of goods transferred between two nodes instead of population, which is used in the existing index. What's new? We have used time taken to travel instead of distance between two nodes to calculate the new connectivity, accessibility, and mobility indexes. Also, we found out that amount of freight movements, which is letters and parcels, is also a major concern during this research. Contribution. When the roads are congested, authorities can identify the real cost that incurs to each and every road. Then we can find out the shortest path that is possible in a minimum cost. This will help us to come up with a different type of schedule, and these type of indexes help us to identify solutions for shortcomings like general traffic jams, inefficiencies in postal services, delivery delays, extra burden on customers, and it will lead us towards sustainability. All these are methodological findings. We can use this in empirical findings as well. For an example, if we take the connectivity of ports in Sri Lanka, we can easily make a connectivity index with the help of this method. We can consider each port in Sri Lanka and develop a connectivity index by considering some special criteria like time taken to travel from port to the nearest market, 3PL service providers, warehouses, etc. Ultimately, we can find out what port has the best connectivity in respective to the above criteria. The benefit is, in an emergency situation, we can decide the best alternative ports. Other considerations. If the necessary data is available, we can expand this research into further findings as well. Also, we can even find out the shortest path between these networks by using methods like traveling salesman algorithm. Also, we found out that proper mechanism to store data is also important while doing this kind of a research. So we have come to the end of our presentation. Hope we were able to give you all an idea about the research we are being working on. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the final team for the competition, Pitching 5, who would be portraying their research on stigma towards mental health help-seeking behavior, a study with undergraduates of Kothalavala Defence University.
Good morning, respected judges. I am Nathashi De Silva, intake 37 MTS. And my other group members include Emalka Pumal, Senior Rajaratna, and Dinesha Rasarangi. The subject related to our research is psychology. The working title, Stigma Towards Mental Health, Help-Seeking Behavior, a study with undergraduates of Kothalavala Defence University. So the rationale behind our working title. Now, if you take national context universities and also KDU University, there are good mental health services provided. Now, if you take KDU, there are around 3 to 4 clinical psychologists available at the KDU hospital, and also a number of student counselors provided. Also 24-hour services, counseling services provided, all free of charge and freely available. But the question is that undergraduates still have issues of depression, psychosocial issues, and suicide being a major issue. What made us think why students don't seek support when services are free of charge and freely available? So having some informal talks to our undergraduates and also our university counselors revealed that there is stigma attached to these students, and therefore they are reluctant to seek support. So going through international health literature to strengthen our idea, we identified that not just in Sri Lanka, stigma is a globally level issue and the need for stigma is recognized globally. The key research question or the basic research question: what is the level of personal and perceived stigma towards mental health help-seeking behavior among KDU undergraduates? So the theory to support our research problem: there are increasing level of stigma recognized in mental illnesses, and it has been developed as a major public health challenge and also a key factor in poor utilization of mental health services. Studies show less percentage of students, of university-aged students with mental disorders receive treatment. And also suicide being top 3 causes of this university-aged population's death. And also the major lifetime disorders that onset from the age of 24 later make difficulties in life. So theory suggests that perceived stigma is conceptualized as a negative stereotype agreement, and this is developed and conceptualized as personal stigma. Theory suggests that both perceived stigma and personal stigma both should be considered and should be treated as separate entities when measuring stigma towards mental illnesses. So going through around 10 to 12 research papers, these were the three main research papers we identified. So to give a summary out of these three papers, the results revealed there are high scores of perceived stigma than personal stigma. And there was highly suggested that personal stigma is related to help-seeking intention. So studies recommended than trying to make social level changes, knowledge on self-stigma can increase the help-seeking intention and the utilization of mental health services. What we want to assess here to see these changes in the context of our study. The motivation or the puzzle. Though international health literature acknowledges how both perceived and personal stigma act as a significant barrier to the utilization of mental health services, there is a paucity in the Sri Lankan health literature specifically regarding how perceived stigma and personal stigma exist and its impacts. Most of international as well as Sri Lankan literature on stigma is focused on a broad sense than differentiating the two forms of stigma. Also, results of studies revealed mixed outcomes on perceived stigma and personal stigma on mental health, help-seeking intention. Also, some of the other literature revealed that there is no correlation of perceived stigma and the use of mental health treatment. The idea. This is our general objective of the study, and this is the specific objective of our study. While this is our research hypothesis, which our study is going to be developed, which was taken from a previous study. So data collection. This study will be conducted at KDU, both Ratmalana and Verahara. Why KDU? Due to the prevailing pandemic situation, this study is limited to undergraduates of KDU. Because at KDU, the faculties, all the faculties are in close proximity, and also students can be easily approached to collect data. Now, in case if other universities are taken, ethical clearance and meeting the students would be problematic because most of the state universities are closed and there can be delays in progressing. The sample, all final year undergraduates of KDU from all the faculties with the age of 22 to 30 selected to the study. Why the final year undergraduates? All final year undergraduates are selected with the consideration that compared to the freshers, that final year students have higher level of maturity and also have explored the world, but still have issues of stigma, that they are unaware of these treatments and benefits of such services. Also, students don't recognize the need as they believe that they can handle their problem by themselves. So generalizing our findings can be done because we are including all the final year students from all faculties. And generalizing our findings to other universities can be done because KDU is somewhat of similar context compared to other universities. Data collection. This will be a cross-sectional survey study with quantitative approach. Why go for a quantitative approach is because our study sample is approximately around 500 and going for a qualitative study would be difficult. Therefore, we are going with a quantitative approach. With primary data collection and measures of public stigma and perceived stigma will be done on scales developed by a previous study. And data analysis would be as follows. So what's new? In the context of Sri Lanka, most of studies towards mental illness is focused on a broad sense, and there is a paucity of studies conducted distinguishing personal and perceived stigma, how they relate to help-seeking attitudes and behaviors. So what? This study will predict the future focus of stigma reduction campaigns, whether personal stigma and perceived public stigma both should be given attention to increase the help-seeking intention and the utilization of mental health services. Our contribution. This new knowledge can be used to increase awareness and other programs for undergraduates to decrease the level of stigma towards seeking mental health. And this study will be vital in addressing issues of undergraduates, such as their social and their career issues, the heavy workload stressors, relationship issues, their competitive education system, suicide, ragging, etc. This will subsequently improve the mental health, education performances, personal lives, and improve their quality of life. Other considerations. The permission to conduct the research will be obtained from the Ethics Review Committee of KDU, and research will adhere to the Code of Human Research Ethics provided by the British Psychological Society. And the collaboration is desirable by psychologists, counselors, other mental health services. Our study is communicating to the community, and we want to disseminate our findings by providing the findings to KDU to develop programs to address both types of stigma among undergraduates. We want to present our findings to the global level, therefore present our findings in conferences and publish the work in index journals such as Journal of Counseling Psychology. These are our references. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you just have witnessed, the 5 teams have demonstrated their research skills before you as they battle it out for the Pitching Research Challenge Trophy 2021. Until the evaluators decide the winner of the competition, this is a cinematographic experience of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University.
KDU, located in the suburbs of Colombo over a 50-acre expanse of land, is surrounded by a lake amid natural flora and fauna, enriching the premises with a magnificent view, preserving the natural architecture of the university. The university was named in memory of Sir John Kotalawala, the third Prime Minister of Sri Lanka.
got selected to the local universities of this state, but I chose KDU mainly because of the disciplinary environment and also the fast admission program of this university.
My father selected this university because of this discipline, because he wanted me to get used to a disciplined culture.
I heard the atmosphere is different. It's very friendly. There's a military side, there's a civilian side, there is a actually wonderful combination going on here.
This esteemed defense university caters to military students as well as to both local and international students through its undergraduate, graduate and professional programs across 9 faculties. Among the student population, KDU has students from the Republic of Maldives, the Kingdom of Bhutan, Nigeria, Rwanda, China, Canada, Australia, the UAE and Vietnam reading for their academic degree programs. With the recent inauguration of its second campus in the southern region, dedicated to built environment and spatial sciences and computing studies, the Allied Health Sciences faculty and the ongoing construction of the first eco-friendly, ultra-modern university hospital, KDU is going beyond borders to facilitate growth prospects among students across the globe. The university maintains world-class standards to groom and educate its graduates through military and academic training simultaneously to meet the modern-day challenges, and have yielded successful results by producing outstanding students in various sectors to serve the nation. The university provides undergraduate degrees in the fields of defense and strategic studies, medicine, allied sciences, law, engineering, management, social sciences, and humanities. The university offers students with state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities such as a modern, fully-fledged clinical skill lab to aid students following medicine, a robotics lab, access to 24-hour research, and free Wi-Fi facilities, catering to the growing needs of the 21st century.
Doing research is not an easy task, but I'm not afraid because we are blessed with a well-qualified academic staff, and also we are equipped with these lab facilities which is operated 24/7. So I'm very glad to be a part of this university.
Systematic innovation within the university is in line with global practices.
Faculty members of our university help us immensely and contribute to make our personality and the confidence in a very impressive manner to do our research tasks very well.
Through the following, we can identify that KDU focuses more on systemic innovation. Additionally, some general aspects of innovation processes are also being considered in the undergraduate and postgraduate courses such as Masters, MPhils and PhDs. The KDU academic module has identified that the benefits of integral systemic thinking in systemic change is related to the benefits of fine-tuning. However, the existence, past experiences, and the impact of these economic and social benefits has stimulated the interest to develop new systemic innovation culture in the university's subculture. KDU is also notably the only university in Sri Lanka which offers BSc degrees in mechatronics engineering, aeronautical engineering, marine engineering, aircraft maintenance, and biomedical engineering. The KDU Aeronautical Engineering Laboratory is equipped with a wind tunnel, the first of its kind in Sri Lanka and among the few in universities in the region. KDU has confirmed all its degree programs to a credit-based course unit system and a GPA evaluation system in compliance with the requirements of the Quality Assurance and Accreditation Council. Degrees offered by KDU are globally recognized and also endorsed by the University Grants Commission of Sri Lanka. KDU is a member of the Association of Commonwealth Universities in the United Kingdom and is also a member of the International University Association, USA.
Every Wednesday, we have the opportunity where our professors themselves teach us social dancing. So we get to learn jazz, jive, cha-cha, you name it, we learn it. It's so much fun here.
Why not? We had
July
July
Ball,
Ball, and
sports meet, parents day. So here in KDU, we can do a lot of extracurricular activities.
Apart from academic activities, undergraduates engage in sporting and club activities ranging from music to archery to sharpen their talents and soft skills, thus fine-tuning themselves to effectively meet modern-day criteria necessitated by the relevant sectors.
A good university is not just one which helps you study and study and study, but you should add spices to your life. So KDU helps you at it. It encourages you to join them. It encourages extracurricular activities. It actually gives you academic credits if you perform well in your extracurricular activities.
KDU is hailed among other universities for its unique mission in ensuring that all students actively nourish themselves not only in the field of education, but inculcate discipline and other essential personal enhancement factors which are the most vital components in defining one's ability to climb the ladder of success.
Inside KDU, we are always addressed as ladies and gentlemen. So they are telling like we are addressed by ladies and gentlemen because they are trying to prepare us to be a lady and to be a proper gentleman in the future.
Values of such nature engulfed in students are appreciated on a global scale, which is one of KDU's primary goals.
We have been given a proper leadership training. There we get the opportunity to understand each other, who our colleagues are going to be, and make good contacts with them.
Wants you to be a good person, a good graduate, a balanced graduate with a good attitude, morals, and everything to be the full person you want to be, you wish to be, the world wants.
KDU, with its enormous portfolio of activities, also focuses on its CSR projects towards society. KDU organizes health camps and blood donation programs on a regular basis.
When talking about me, I like to represent my country one day. That's my dream.
Be a good doctor and serve society, serve my country, serve my people, and do good.
Today, KDU stands as one of the most remarkable universities, focusing on all the growing needs of the era and moving through its array of activities towards a sustainable tomorrow.
The morals, the discipline, the military background, it helps you a lot. It helps you see the path clearly.
General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University will follow you to wisdom. My ambition is to serve my motherland, as our motto said, for the motherland forever.
Okay, I think you can now hear me. I had a lot of technical difficulties getting unmuted, but I believe you can now hear me. So I will continue unless someone tells me that I think I am unmuted. Fabulous job. First of all, before I announce the winner, I just want to say a few words of congratulation to all teams and indeed all the participants of the inaugural competition. The teams all have done a fantastic job. I enjoyed each of those 5 pitches. I enjoyed reading the written pitches, and I certainly enjoyed listening and watching the oral pitches as well. So the first thing I'd like to say is congratulations to everyone. there is going to be just one winner, but I really did want to give a strong word of encouragement to all teams. And I might just make an individual comment about each of the teams. And I'm going to do this in order of the presentations so that you have no clue who will be the winner. So I'm just going to do it in the same order that we have seen the finalists. So the very first team that we heard from did a great job looking at the subscription business model, this e-business way of the future, for which COVID has really, I think, given a great impetus. And they are not the only team that have used COVID as a contextual feature, but of course not all teams did that either. But this pitch was very well constructed. I think like all of the pitches, there was great clarity. We could see that there was a meaningful amount of information given. I think a very good effort. It was very well connected, and I believe it created a conversation. So, you know, I think this team has done a fabulous job, and I'd like to congratulate you on your efforts. Moving to the second pitching team that we heard, they also used the COVID context, I think, to advantage. So this one was looking at undergraduates' perception on the transition of learning from on-campus to online. And clearly, your university, all universities around the world have had to struggle for more than 12 months now in how we deal with what is our bread and butter of teaching students whatever the core curriculum content is. And so COVID has really allowed your team, like the first team, to put this forward as a compelling piece of research. And again, I can see a lot of the clarity, the meaningfulness, the effort, the connectivity, and starting a conversation here. So well done to the second team that we heard today. If I move on to the third team that we heard from today, so this was the glass ceiling team. Now, this didn't and doesn't require a COVID context, but we know for many years now, for decades, there's been a concern really around different elements of bias, gender bias, and it pervades, I guess, a lot of facets of society, but of course here we're thinking of the business context, and in particular, the logistics and transport industry. And so I think, again, this team did a great job. It was very clearly portrayed, I think very meaningful, lots of effort. It's certainly highly connected and worked to start a conversation. So congratulations to the third team that we heard from today. The second last team that we heard from today was the travel time team. This is another interesting topic, and we can see now the diversity. If I'm just going through very quickly to remind us of the different teams, a huge diversity of topics here, which helps to keep and maintain our interest. And you know, the idea here was you know, pretty interesting, that we have the previous measure of this connectedness, or these networks around distance, and now this team is saying, well, you know, distance may not be the most relevant measure for looking at these situations. So they came up with this travel time measure. And so again, congratulations to our university, Professor Henk Berkman from the University of Auckland, and Professor Kathy Walsh from the University of Technology, Sydney. We all came at this with great seriousness and with our own perspective on how the merits, the relative merits of these pitches would play out. And there was a degree of, I guess, similarity, but we didn't have exactly the same views. So there was a little bit of variation, and in the end, as we got to decide the winner, it turned out there were, I guess, 3 of the 5, and the other 2 that I'm not going to mention now have done very, very well. But there were 3 of the 5, like the top 3, that I think were pretty close in terms of trying to disentangle a winner. And so if I go through in order of their presentation today, those 3 were the second one we heard from today. So the undergraduate perception of the transition of learning from on campus to online, the glass ceiling team, and the mental health, the stigma and mental health team. So those 3 teams did exceptionally well. And it really boiled down to quite a close call between them. Quite a variety of topics here. I guess two of the 3 were, I guess, pulling at the heartstrings apart from anything else. Well, certainly the mental health stigma one, heartstrings there. The glass ceiling one was one that, you know, was appealing to our sort of many of our senses of just being fair and reasonable around the gender issue. But one shouldn't also discount the interest in this challenge of traditional learning versus online learning. And if I just highlight in order, one thing from each of the pictures, those 3 pictures, that I found particularly encouraging, and I would like to highlight before I announce the winner. So again, going in order, from the first one, the undergraduate perceptions one, I give a very big tick for the choice of the key papers. The key papers involve 2 2021 papers, so they've been published this year, and a 2018 publication. And it's not just the fact that they're very recent, but that when the team worked through and justified that choice and how it fitted with the general topic of the perception of going from traditional learning to online, I think that worked really, really well. So I'd like to just highlight that for that team as something that I was very pleased about. Let me move to the glass ceiling team and just highlight one thing that I really enjoyed and I'd like to commend out of theirs. And I'm cherry picking these things. It's not to say it's the only good thing, but it's something I'd like to share with you. I particularly like the focus of the glass ceiling team in their answers to other considerations. It seemed to me they put in a special effort to think about other things that weren't really covered in the 10 elements of the template to round out, I think, a serious thinking around what this research was about. So I would like to commend that team on that one. And finally, in what I've classified unofficially as the top 3, again, I'm going to, for the stigma and mental health, I'm going to highlight their focus on the other considerations. And because I think they also showed extra thought and care and effort there for something that maybe some teams felt, well, by the time we get to the end, other considerations is not that important. Well, you know, it can be and it should be considered as something that's important. So I think with the mental health stigma team, that's the one I'd like to highlight. But I don't want to take any more of your time, and I know the finalists will be getting quite nervous. I've stretched this out. It's a bit like the Eurovision contest that, everyone's there waiting for the announcement. So of the top three, I'm very pleased to announce that the winner of the inaugural pitching research competition for 2021 is the team that had the study of undergraduate perception on the transition of learning from on-campus to online. Just let me say a few more words on that one before I hand back over. I really do believe as a package of information that would start a conversation that has reflected a serious effort, and everyone has done this, of all the teams, but I think for this particular team, so the perception of students, they really, to me, have just gone that little bit extra, and it's really hard to compare one of these from the other. But I warmly congratulate this team. I think you're worthy winners. So I hope that your research pans out, and in fact, all the research of the undergraduate teams pans out to be very rewarding. But for this year, congratulations, you are the winner. Thank you.
Congratulations, pitching team 2, who did their presentation on a study of undergraduates' perception on transition of learning from on-campus to online. And wishes to the winning team for your stellar performance at the inaugural grand finals of the Pitching Research Competition 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, on this virtual space, let us also give a warm round of applause to the winners of the competition. And also, I would like to invite the enthusiastic winners to express their feelings of achievement at this pinnacle moment. And we call on the participants of the team to join with their cameras on. So what do you feel about your research journey and your excelling achievement today, team?
So first of all, good morning, distinguished chief guests, guests of honor, panel of judges, lecturers, and my fellow colleagues. Honestly, just thank you. It's a great honor, and I'm really humbly pleased to have won this award. So on behalf of team, I'm speaking, Risha. So the pitching research competition was a stepping stone for all undergraduate research projects, I believe. So being completely alien to the world of research, we didn't know where to start or whether our research idea was even worth giving a try. We simply just viewed the research as just another requirement to get our degree. So the introduction of this pitching research competition motivated us, and eventually it created within us a passion to produce a high quality research. So starting with the brainstorming sessions with my team members and the endless support and guidance by our mentor, Dr. Upali Rajapaksha, we came up with a fine pitching template. So this framework introduced by Professor Robert Pfaff supported us to create a solid research platform for a well-rounded, effective, and achievable research project. So moreover, getting into the top 5 amongst such a strong competition and having had the chance to pitch our research to an international panel of judges was in itself a privilege. So dear fellow teams, as far as I believe, we are all truly winners today. So finally, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Robert Pfaff, the key resource person, our Vice Chancellor, Major General Milinda Pires, Mr. Kitsiri Amaratunga, Mr. Vasanta Premaratna, Professor Dr. Vasanta Pereira, Professor Atula Manavaduke, Professor Dushanti Lukuge, Professor Pali Rajpaksha, supervisor, all other supervisors, and our parents for being influential in our success. So last but not least, I would like to guarantee this is not only the first step that we've taken as undergraduates, and we promise to contribute more and be useful, be a useful asset in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your insightful ideas. And congratulations once again to the winners. And indeed, all our winners today, as you said as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pitching Research Challenge Trophy and certificates will be awarded at a separate physical ceremony later on once the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic eases out. An event of this nature does not happen overnight. The wheels keep rolling months before for planning and diligent coordination. So let me invite the coordinator of the Pitching Research Competition 2021, Ms. Didi Lokuge, to propose the vote of thanks.
As we have come to the end of the Pitching Research Competition Grand Finale 2021, on behalf of the organizing committee, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the personalities who helped to make this event a success. First, my sincere gratitude offers to Major General Milinda Piris, Chief Guest and the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, who graced this event, and for his moral persuasion. The guest of honor, Professor Veerakon Banda from University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, who dedicated his valuable time by taking part as an evaluator in the selection process of semi-final round. Your constructive comments were highly valuable, and thank you very much, sir, for your presence today. My humble appreciation goes to Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor K.A.S. Dhammika, and also former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Jayanta Aryaratna, and the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defense and Administration, Brigadier W. Chandrasiri, who given the advice to sort out many administration matters relating to this event. Professor Charita Gunasekara, Dean, Research and Development, Senior Professor Rohini Senaviratna, Director, Center for Quality Assurance, Dr. Namali Sirisoma, Director, Career Guidance Center. Thank you very much, ma'am, joining with us to witness the competition. Then Mr. Kitsiri Amaratunga, Dean of the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities, Head of the Department, Management and Finance, Dr. Vasantha Premaratna, Head of the Department of Social Sciences, Mr. Nuwan Herath, and Ms. Nalinika Rajapaksha, Head of the Languages, Ms. Krishanti Anandavansha, Department of Languages, who provided their enormous support throughout the competition. On behalf of the organizing committee, I highly appreciate Professor Robert Pfaff, who is the founder of the Pitching Research Concept. Thank you very much, sir, being with us throughout the competition. Your guidance and the support enabled to persuade KDU undergraduates and the staff for this event. I am sure that this event made a new era for KDU, as this Professor Robert Pfaff has introduced an eminent intellectual panel for the Grand Finale 2021, Professor Kathy Walsh from University of Technology, Sydney, Professor Charlie Kai from the University of Liverpool, UK, Professor Hank Berkman from University of Auckland, New Zealand, and Professor Tom Smith from Macquarie University, Australia. Thank you very much for joining with us to provide your valuable judgment in Pitching Research Competition Grand Finale 2021. I immensely acknowledge the support given by Colonel Tushan De Silva, Director IT, and his supporting staff, who have helped to develop the virtual platform and provided valuable instructions to run the today's event smoothly. Further, from the beginning of the event, on 9th February 2021, 27th April semi-final round, and to the grand finale on 10th, there were 40 groups who took part in the competition. I must thank and recognize the effort of the undergraduates, and I congratulate for the winning team. then I should thank my team who contributed enormously throughout the pitching research competition. Professor Vasanta Pereira and Professor Atula Manavaduge were the two guiding stars of this event. I thank them for their guidance, close communication, and the feedback given to enhance the value of the event. Operationalizing this sort of an event is highly essential to go for attention to details. In that endeavor, Ms. Dinesha Pereira, as a compeer and as the co-coordinator of the Pitching Research Competition 2021, I owe my heartfelt gratitude for your work. And Mr. Anju Ilangasekara, by assisting in controlling the virtual platform, thank you very much for your dedication. Finally, my humble thanks go to all the invitees, even though I could not mention the names specifically, who participated to witness the Pitching Research Competition Grand Finale 2021. I'm sure that your participation was a motivational factor for contestants. Once again, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the grand finale of the Pitching Research Competition 2021, organized by the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities of General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University. Until we meet on a similar occasion next year, it was a pleasure comparing this event. I'm Dinesha Pereira signing off, and on behalf of the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities and KDU, wishing you and your loved ones great health, safe, and keep safe. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally mark the conclusion of the ceremony, please rise for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Upper Sri Lanka.